Have you ever heard a sound that didn't make sense? Not because it was quiet, not because it was far away, but because it shouldn't exist at all, because out there, in the middle of a deadly snowstorm, there shouldn't be anyone alive to make it. That's exactly what happened on the night that changed Eli Mercer's life forever. Eli Mercer wasn't the kind of man who feared much. He lived alone in the Wyoming mountains, far from towns, far from people, far from trouble. Out here, survival wasn't a skill. It was a way of life. Every piece of wood in his cabin, every nail in his wall, every inch of land he worked, was built with his own hands, and men like Eli didn't rely on anyone, didn't expect anything, and definitely didn't believe in miracles. But that night, something came to his door, something he couldn't explain. The storm had started before sunset. At first, it was just wind. Normal wind, the kind that howls through the mountains like it's telling stories no one wants to hear. But by nightfall, it had turned into something else, something violent. The wind didn't blow anymore. It slammed. It hit the cabin like fists, again, and again, and again. Snow didn't fall from the sky. It flew sideways, sharp, relentless, blinding. If a man stepped outside, he wouldn't last 10 minutes, not even Eli, inside the cabin. The only thing keeping death away was a small iron stove. The fire cracked and glowed, throwing shadows across the walls. Eli sat beside it, quiet, focused, repairing an old leather bridle. His hands moved with calm precision. Needle through leather, pull tight, again, again, again. The kind of rhythm only a man alone too long understands. But something felt wrong, not outside, inside, a strange feeling. Like the storm wasn't just passing through, like it was searching, like it was bringing something with it. Then a knock. Eli didn't move, didn't even blink, because that wasn't possible. No one would be out there. No one would be stupid enough or desperate enough to travel in a storm like this. The wind screamed louder. The cabin shook. Snow hit the walls like handfuls of gravel. Eli went back to his work, tried to ignore it, tried to convince himself it was nothing. Then another knock, this time louder, uneven, weak, but real. Eli slowly set the bridle down, stood up. His body went still, but his mind sharpened, because now he knew that wasn't the storm, that was someone. And out here, when someone knocks on your door during a storm like this, it only means one thing: something is terribly wrong. Eli reached for his Winchester, not raising it, just holding it, ready, always ready. He stepped toward the door, each step slow, careful, measured. Who's there? He called. For a moment, nothing, only the storm roaring like a living thing. Then a voice. So weak, it barely made it through the wind. Please. A pause. Help me. And in that moment, everything changed, because that voice didn't sound like fear anymore. Didn't sound like panic. It sounded like the last piece of hope someone had left before giving up. Eli didn't think anymore, didn't question, didn't hesitate. He grabbed the door and pulled it open. The storm exploded inside. Wind slammed into him. Snow blasted through the doorway. Cold air cut through his clothes like knives. And there, barely standing, was a woman, or something close to one. Her body was stiff, frozen, her dress covered in ice. Her hair stuck to her face like glass threads. Her lips had almost no color left. She looked like someone who had already died and just didn't know it yet. She was shaking so hard it made a sound like something fragile breaking, and in her hands she held a small bag, tight, like it was the only thing she hadn't lost. Eli didn't ask her name, didn't ask where she came from. He stepped forward, grabbed her arm and pulled her inside. The moment the door slammed shut, her body gave up. She collapsed, just dropped, like everything inside her had been holding on for that one last second, and now it didn't have to anymore. Eli moved fast, because out here, you don't wait, you don't think, you act. Get those clothes off, he said. Fam. Direct. In a room for argument. Wet clothes in this cold don't make you uncomfortable. They kill you. He turned his back, gave her what privacy he could, but he didn't stop moving. More wood in the fire, more heat, more life. The flames grew, stronger, brighter, hotter. Behind him, he could hear her struggling, fabric stiff with ice, fingers barely working, breathing uneven. When he finally turned around, she was wrapped in his shirt, too big for her, swallowing her frame. A blanket clutched tight around her shoulders, still shaking, still fragile, still fighting. He handed her a cup of coffee. Her hands trembled so badly. The cup rattled, but she didn't drop it. She drank, slow, careful, desperate, like every sip was pulling her back from something dark. Eli watched her, not judging, not questioning, just making sure. She came back, because not everyone does. Some people survive the storm, but lose something inside it, and that something never returns. He gave her food, and the way she ate told him everything. This wasn't just a woman caught in a storm. This was someone who had already lost everything. Why were you out there? He asked quietly. She looked up, and for the first time, he saw her eyes, green, but not soft, heavy, tired, carrying something deeper than cold. My name is Maggie Doyle, she said, her voice still weak, but holding. I came from Boston. A pause. To get married. Eli frowned slightly. To who? She swallowed. Owen Blackhedge, and just like that, the story changed. Owen Blackhedge. The name didn't just sit in the air. It weighed it down. Eli didn't react right away, didn't interrupt, didn't question. But something inside him shifted, because men like Owen didn't send for women unless they wanted something, and they didn't send them away without a reason. He sent for me, Maggie continued. Her fingers tightened around the tin bowl, like she needed something solid to hold onto. He wrote letters, promised a home, said he needed a wife. Her voice softened, not with warmth, but with something fragile, something close to breaking. I believed him. Eli leaned back slightly, resting his arms on his knees, still watching her, still listening. I sold everything, she said. My books, my furniture, even my mother's piano. A small pause. That one hurt more than the rest. You don't leave something like that behind, unless you believe where you're going matters more. The fire cracked loudly between them, filling the silence. She couldn't. When I got there, she continued. He looked at me once. Just once. That was all it took. And then he decided. Eli's jaw tightened. He said I wasn't strong enough, not built for ranch life, not worth the trouble. Each word came out flatter than the last, like she had already repeated them too many times in her head. He handed me money for the return coach, like I was a mistake he could fix. Her voice dropped. I didn't take it. Eli finally spoke. Why not? She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, there was something different in her eyes. Not just pain, not just exhaustion, but pride, because I wasn't something he could buy or send away. Silence again, but this time, it felt different, stronger. The hotel wouldn't take me, she added quietly. I didn't have enough money. The station master said the next coach wouldn't come for a week. A pause, then so? I walked. Eli let out a slow breath. You ever walked through a Wyoming storm before? He asked. She gave a faint, almost humorless smile. I didn't think I'd live long enough to regret it. That pulled something unexpected out of him. Not laughter, but something close. The fire popped again, warmth filling the small space between them. You're lucky, Eli said after a moment. She raised an eyebrow slightly. Lucky? Yeah, he said. You found a door. She looked down at her hands, still trembling slightly. I almost didn't knock. That made him pause. Why? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because I didn't think anyone would open it. That hit harder than anything she'd said so far. Eli didn't answer right away, because the truth was, out here, a lot of people wouldn't have. The storm raged outside, but inside the cabin, something had shifted. Not safety, not comfort, something deeper, understanding. The first morning Maggie woke slowly, not all at once, but in pieces, fast. The warmth, something she hadn't felt in what seemed like forever. Then, the smell, coffee, fresh, strong, real. Her eyes opened, and for a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then she saw it, the cabin, the fire, and Eli, standing near the stove, quiet, focused, like the storm had never existed. You're awake, he said. Without turning, her voice came out soft. I didn't think I would be. He nodded once. Storm like that? A pause. Most don't. She pushed herself up slowly, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Her body still felt heavy, but not broken anymore. Outside, the world had disappeared. Snow covered everything, trees bent under the weight, the sky still grey and endless. How long? She asked. Storm eased before dawn, he said. Snow's still coming, but the worst of it's over. She let out a quiet breath. I owe you my life. Eli shook his head. No, she frowned slightly. You walked through that storm, he said. You knocked. A pause. You saved yourself. She didn't argue, but something about that stayed with her. Learning each other the next few days didn't feel like survival. They felt like something else. Something slower, quieter, something neither of them expected. Maggie insisted on helping Dottie first. Eli didn't argue because he could see it. She needed it, not just to repay him, but to feel like she still had control over something. So she cooked simple meals, but warm, filling. She cleaned carefully, respectfully, never touching things she thought mattered. She mended his clothes, her hands steady now, precise, skilled, and Eli let her Dottie first. They spoke little, just what was necessary, but slowly. That changed. You stitch like that in Boston? Eli asked one afternoon. She smiled faintly. I used to teach. That caught his attention. Teach what? Reading, writing, numbers, a pause, and patience. Mostly, he almost smiled. Could've used that growing up. He said, you still could, she replied. That did it. A small smile broke through. Quick, gone just as fast. But she saw it, and for some reason, that mattered. The space between them shrinks. They started moving differently around each other, not careful anymore, not distant, natural, like they had already learned each other's rhythms. She knew when he needed silence. He knew when she needed warmth. One afternoon, their hands brushed, just for a second, reaching for the same cup. Both paused, not pulling away immediately, not moving closer either, just noticing. Then quietly, they continued, but something had changed. The cold night. Then came the night that changed everything. No storm, no wind, no sound, just cold. The kind of cold that doesn't warn you, doesn't howl, doesn't shake walls. It creeps in slowly, silently, until it's too late. Maggie lay in the bed, wrapped in blankets, trying not to move, trying not to make a sound, but her body betrayed her, shivering, small at first, then worse. Eli heard it from across the room. He didn't move right away, just listened, because he knew what that meant. This isn't going to work, he said. Finally, I'm fine, she whispered. You're not. A pause, then silence. Long, heavy. Eli stood, walked to the bed, stopped. This is just practical, he said. She didn't respond. We share warmth, or we both freeze. Still nothing. Then, okay, quiet, but certain. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful, respectful, pulled the buffalo robe over both of them. Dottie first. There was space, too much space. The cold didn't allow it. Slowly, she moved closer, then closer, until her shoulder touched his, then her head rested lightly against him, her body still trembling. Eli hesitated, just for a second, then placed his arm around her, not tight, not unsure, steady. Her breathing began to slow, the shaking eased. Minutes passed, then she slept, completely, deeply, for the first time since Boston. Eli didn't move, didn't shift, didn't sleep. He just sat there, watching the fire burn low, feeling the weight of her against him, and realizing something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't alone anymore. When morning came, everything looked the same. The cabin, the snow, the fire, but nothing felt the same, because something had changed. Not spoken, not decided, but real. When their hands brushed again, neither pulled away. When she stood close at the stove, he didn't step back, and when she looked at him, there was no hesitation anymore, only something quiet, something growing, something neither of them had planned. But neither of them wanted to stop, and neither of them knew that everything they had just found was about to be tested, because far down the frozen trail, through the snow and silence, trouble was already on its way, and what came next would force them to choose between fear and each other. Morning came quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like something is waiting. Eli noticed it first, not with his eyes. With instinct, he stood near the window, looking out over the white-covered valley. Nothing moved, no wind, no sound, but something felt wrong. You expecting someone? Maggie asked softly from behind him. Eli didn't answer right away. No, he said finally. A pause, which is exactly why I don't like it. She stepped closer, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. What do you mean? Eli's eyes narrowed slightly as he scanned the horizon. Out here, something always moves, and then he saw it. Dark shapes, far off, barely visible through the snow. Moving fast, his jaw tightened. Get inside, he said. Maggie didn't argue. Not this time. Something in his voice told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't weather. This was worse. She stepped back into the cabin quickly, not running, but not slow either. Eli stepped outside onto the porch. Cold air hit him hard, but he didn't flinch. His eyes stayed locked on the approaching figures. 3 horses. No. 4 riders, and as they got closer, there was no doubt left. Oh, in Black Edge, even from a distance, he carried himself like a man who believed the world belonged to him. Behind him, the sheriff and 2 hired men. Eli didn't reach for his rifle. Not yet. But it was close, always close. The horses came to a stop in front of the cabin, snow crunching beneath their weight, breath steaming in the cold air. Rin smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a real one. The kind of smile that already thinks it's won. Well now, he said smoothly, adjusting his gloves. Didn't expect to find you playing host. Eli didn't respond. Owen's eyes flicked toward the cabin, then back to Eli. I hear you've been keeping something that belongs to me. The air changed. Cold wasn't the problem anymore. Eli stepped forward slightly, just enough. Nothing here belongs to you. Owen's smile faded, just a little. I'm talking about my wife, he said. She's not your wife. Owen's eyes hardened. She came here for me. He snapped. That makes her mine. Before Eli could respond, the cabin door opened. Maggie stepped out, and everything changed. She wasn't the same woman who had stumbled through the storm. Her hair was pinned back, her posture straight, her eyes steady, still fragile, but no longer weak. I am not yours. Her voice cut through the cold air like a blade. Everyone went still. Owen turned slowly toward her, surprised, then annoyed. You don't get to decide that, he said. I do, she replied. No hesitation, no fear. You ended it, she continued. At the station. You said so yourself. Owen laughed. Short, sharp. You expect anyone to believe that? Maggie stepped forward, slow, controlled. I don't need them to believe it, she said. I can prove it. She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded paper. The wind tried to take it, but she held tight. The agreement, she said, with your signature. The sheriff shifted slightly in his saddle. Let me see that, he said. Maggie handed it over. Her hands didn't shake this time. The sheriff read it carefully. Silence stretched. Owen's confidence didn't break. Not yet. Then the sheriff looked up. Well, he said slowly. It says here plain as day. You terminated the arrangement. The words landed heavy. Owen's jaw tightened. She forced me. He snapped. Threatened scandal. Maggie didn't flinch. I never threatened anything, she said calmly. You just didn't want me. That hit harder than anything else. One of the hired men muttered something under his breath. Ugly, disrespectful. Eli moved. Not fast, not aggressive, but enough. He stepped in front of Maggie, just slightly, not blocking her, not hiding her, standing with her. Careful, Eli said quietly, the kind of quiet that carries more weight than shouting. The hired man went silent. The sheriff cleared his throat. Miss Doyle, he said, are you here of your own free will? Maggie didn't hesitate. Yes. Anyone forcing you to stay? No. Anyone taking advantage of you? Her eyes flicked toward Eli for just a second, then back to the sheriff. No. A pause. Mr. Mercer has been nothing but respectful. Eli didn't move, didn't react, but something in his chest tightened. Owen saw it, and he didn't like it. This isn't over, Owen said coldly. Eli met his gaze. It is for today. Silence. The kind that feels like something is about to break. Then Owen pulled his rein sharply. His horse turned. But before he left, he looked at Maggie, and this time, there was no smile, only something darker. You'll regret this, he said. Then he rode off. The others followed, snow crunching, hooves fading, until the valley was quiet again. But not peaceful, not anymore. Maggie stood still, watching them disappear, then slowly. Her shoulders dropped. Eli turned toward her. You all right? She nodded, but it wasn't convincing. He's not done, she said. Eli shook his head slightly. No, a pause. He's just getting started. The next morning, they found it, a dead chicken, lying on the porch, its neck twisted. No mistake. No accident. A message. Maggie stared at it from the doorway. Her face didn't show fear, but her hands told a different story. They want me scared, she said quietly. Eli stepped beside her. They want both of us scared. A long pause. Then she turned to him. Teach me. Eli frowned slightly. Teach you what? Her eyes locked onto his steady, certain how to shoot. That surprised him. Not because she asked, but because of how she asked. No hesitation. No doubt. This wasn't fear talking. This was choice. Eli studied her for a moment. The woman who had arrived half frozen was gone. This was someone else, someone stronger. All right, he said, and just like that, everything shifted again behind the cabin. Eli placed the rifle in her hands. Don't fight it, he said. Control it. She nodded. Her grip was unsure at first, her stance unsteady, but she listened carefully. Breathe out, Eli said. Then pull. She did. The shot rang out, missed. She didn't react, didn't get frustrated, just adjusted. Again, another shot. Closer. Again. By the end of the day, she hit the target 3 times out of 5. Eli gave a small nod. Not bad. She lowered the rifle. Not bad for a teacher, she asked. He almost smiled. Not bad for anyone. And for the first time since Owen came, something replaced the fear. Confidence. Not loud, not reckless, but real and growing. That night, they sat by the fire again, but it felt different. Not quiet, not uncertain, stronger, more solid, like something had taken root. Something neither Owen nor anyone else could easily tear apart. But outside, in the darkness beyond the cabin, something else was growing too. Anger, and men like Owen Blackedge didn't lose quietly, and what he does next won't just threaten them. It will test everything they've built. The threat didn't come all at once. It didn't explode, didn't shout, didn't announce itself. It spread quietly, slowly, like something poisonous. Why the next morning, the entire valley knew. Not the truth. Never the truth. Just stories, twisted, bent, reshaped into something ugly. At the general store, voices lowered when Maggie walked in. Eyes followed her. Not kind, not curious, judging. That's her. Someone whispered. The one who ran off with another man. Maggie heard it, every word, but she didn't stop walking, didn't respond, didn't break. She stepped up to the counter, placed her items down carefully. Flour, salt, thread, simple things, necessary things. Mrs. Harmon stood behind the counter, arms crossed, face tight. That'll be $2, she said. Maggie reached into her pocket, counted what little she had left. Not enough. I can pay the rest later, Maggie said calmly. Mrs. Harmon didn't hesitate. No credit. The words were sharp, final. Maggie nodded once. I understand. She began putting the items back, one by one, carefully, not rushing, not showing what she felt, but inside, something tightened. Because survival wasn't just about storms anymore. It was about people, and people could be colder. Then the door opened. Mrs. Patterson walked in, older, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who didn't miss much. She looked at Maggie, then at the counter, then at Mrs. Harmon. What's going on here? No credit, Mrs. Harmon said. Again, Mrs. Patterson didn't argue, didn't debate. She stepped forward, reached into her purse, placed money on the counter. Put it on my account. The room went quiet. Mrs. Harmon hesitated, then took the money. Mrs. Patterson turned to Maggie. Everyone deserves a fair chance, she said. Not loud, not dramatic, but clear enough for everyone to hear. Maggie swallowed. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson nodded once. Don't thank me yet, she said quietly. You're going to need more than groceries to get through this valley. Maggie understood. This wasn't over, not even close. Back at the cabin, Eli noticed it immediately. The way she moved, slower, quieter, not broken, but carrying something heavier. What happened? He asked. She hesitated, then told him everything, the whispers, the stares, the refusal. Eli listened, silent, still when she finished. He stood up, grabbed his coat. I'll handle it. Maggie shook her head. Quickly. No, he stopped, turned. This isn't something you can fix with a fight, she said. His jaw tightened. Then how do we fix it? She held his gaze. We don't fight it. A pause. We face it. That wasn't what he wanted to hear, but it was what he needed to understand, because this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about something deeper. Reputation, truth, belonging, things a man couldn't fix with strength alone. That night, they sat by the fire, silence between them, but not empty, thinking, planning, waiting. Then Maggie spoke. I want to speak. Eli looked up. Speak? In church. That caught him off guard. You're serious? She nodded. Let them hear the truth from me. Eli leaned back slightly, thinking. They don't usually let women speak like that, he said. Maggie's expression didn't change. Women don't usually get left to die in a storm either. That settled it. This wasn't about tradition. This was about truth, and she wasn't backing down. The church filled early, not out of faith, out of curiosity. People whispered, turned, watched. Owen sat near the front, confident, calm, like he already knew how this would end. Eli and Maggie sat in the back, not hiding, just waiting. The sermon passed, but no one really listened, because everyone knew what was coming. Finally, Reverend Cole cleared his throat. There is something that needs to be said today, he announced. The room went still. Miss Maggie Doyle wishes to speak. A ripple moved through the crowd. Surprise, disapproval, curiosity. Maggie stood, slow, steady, walked to the front, every step measured, every eye on her, but she didn't look at them. She looked straight ahead. At the truth she carried. She didn't start immediately. She let the silence settle. Then, my name is Maggie Doyle. Her voice was clear, stronger than anyone expected. I came here from Boston. She told them everything. The letters, the promises, the journey. The moment Owen looked at her and decided she wasn't enough, she held up the papers. Proof, not emotion, not opinion, truth. Owen stood abruptly. This is nonsense. But Maggie didn't stop, didn't even look at him. You abandoned me, she said. The room shifted. People looked at each other, whispers starting again. Different this time, uncertain, not convinced anymore. You left me in a place I didn't know, she continued, in a storm I couldn't survive. A pause, and the only reason I'm standing here today, she turned slightly, is because Eli Mercer opened his door. Silence. Heavy. Real. Then a voice from the crowd. Mrs. Patterson, she's telling the truth. Heads turned. Then another voice. Old Tom Garrett. Mercer helped my boy last winter. Another. And mine too. One by one, people stood. Not all, but enough to change everything. Owen looked around, and for the first time, he wasn't in control. Not anymore. His face hardened. This isn't over, he said again, but this time, it didn't sound like power. It sounded like anger. He turned, walked out. The church door slammed behind him, and just like that, the balance shifted. That night, back at the cabin, Maggie sat quietly, not exhausted, not afraid, just still. Eli placed something on the table, a small wooden box. She looked at it, then at him. What is it? He opened it. Inside, a ring, simple, gold, worn with time. My mother's, he said. Maggie didn't touch it. I'm not asking you to marry me, he added quickly. A pause. I'm giving you the choice. The room went quiet. She looked at the ring, then at him, and for a moment, everything else faded. The town, the gossip, the danger, all of it. When we're ready, she said softly, and closed the box, setting it gently back on the table. Eli nodded. That was enough, more than enough. The peace didn't last. It never does. Later that night, a crash. Glass shattered. Maggie jumped to her feet. A rock rolled across the floor. Cold air rushed in through the broken window. Eli moved instantly, rifle in hand. Out the door. Darkness. Silence. No one there. But the message was clear. This wasn't over. Not even close. Maggie stood inside, staring at the broken glass, her hands trembling slightly. Eli came back in, didn't say anything, just started fixing the window, boarding it up, sealing the cold out. When he finished, he looked at her, still shaking. He stepped closer, not speaking, just standing there until the shaking stopped, because sometimes words aren't what people need. Presence is. And in that moment, she wasn't alone. Not anymore. But what Owen does next won't be whispers, won't be threats. It will be fire, and this time, everything they've built will be at risk. The night felt wrong, again. Not loud, not violent, just still. The kind of stillness that doesn't bring peace. It brings warning. Eli felt it before he saw it. A smell, faint but unmistakable. Smoke. His eyes snapped open. He was already moving before his mind caught up. Maggie. She woke instantly. What is it? But then she smelled it, too. Smoke. Not from the stove. Outside. Eli grabbed his coat, rifle. Stay here, he said. No, she answered immediately, and there was no fear in her voice this time, only certainty. They stepped outside together, and then they saw it. Flames rising into the night sky, the barn burning, not slowly, not by accident. Hungry flames climbed the wood like they had been waiting. The fire roared, crackling, devouring everything in its path. Eli ran. No hesitation, no thought, just instinct. Maggie followed. The heat hit them hard, smoke thick, air sharp. The barn doors were already collapsing inward. Water, Eli shouted, but they both knew it wouldn't be enough. Then voices, shouting, lights. In the distance, the valley was coming. Men, women, children, buckets, blankets, anything they could carry. They ran toward the fire like it was their own, because out here, when something burns, it belongs to everyone. Eli moved fast, pulling tools, dragging what he could away from the flames. Maggie didn't stand back. She stepped forward, eyes sharp, mind working. Then she saw it. The fire wasn't just spreading through the barn. It was moving toward the cabin, fast. If it reached the cabin, everything would be gone. Eli, she shouted. He turned. She pointed. The fire spreading. For a split second, time stopped. Then Maggie made a decision. Cut it off. She yelled. Everyone turned toward her. Break the line. Her voice carried, clear, commanding. Stop it before it reaches the house. For a moment, no one moved. Then Eli did. Do it, he shouted, and just like that everything shifted. People ran, shovels hit the ground, snow was thrown aside. A firebreak desperate, fast. The flames crept closer, heat growing, stronger, smoke choking the air, but they didn't stop. No one stopped until finally the fire reached the break and slowed, then stopped. The barn was gone, collapsed into ash and embers, but the cabin still stood. Silence fell slowly, broken only by crackling wood. Heavy breathing. Maggie stood there, hands burned, face covered in soot, watching what was left. Then quietly she spoke. This is my fault. Eli turned sharply. No, she shook her head. He's doing this because of me. Her voice cracked slightly. If I hadn't come here. Eli stepped forward, took her hands, gently, carefully. Her skin was warm, too warm, burned. This didn't happen because of you, he said. A pause. It happened because of him. She looked at him, eyes filled. He destroys things, Eli continued, then softer. And we don't. That hit something deep, something stronger than fear, stronger than doubt around them. The valley watched, not judging anymore, not whispering, understanding, because they had seen it. Who stood strong, who led, who saved what could be saved, and who burned what couldn't be taken. Then, who's slow, deliberate. Owen Blackidge rode into the edge of the firelight. Calm, too calm. Shame about your barn, he said. Eli stepped forward. You crossed a line. Owen smiled faintly. Prove it. But before Eli could answer, the sheriff stepped forward. We already did. Owen's smile faded. We caught one of your men, the sheriff said, with a torture silence. The valley watched, waiting. Owen looked around, and for the first time, he saw it. He wasn't in control anymore. Not of the people, not of the story, not of anything. One rancher stepped forward. I was going to sell him my water. Right, he said. A pause. Not anymore. Another stepped forward. Me? Neither. Then another. And another. Until the message was clear, Owen stood. Alone, completely alone. His face hardened. But this time, there was nothing left to say. He turned his horse and rode away. Not powerful, not respected. Just gone. And this time, everyone knew he wasn't coming back. The valley slowly cleared. People helped where they could. Then one by one, they left, until it was just the two of them again, standing in the quiet, smoke still drifting into the sky. Maggie looked at the burnt ground, then at the cabin, still standing, then at Eli. You stayed, she said. Softly, he frowned slightly. What do you mean? You could have walked away, she said, when everything got difficult. A pause. But you didn't. Eli looked at her, really looked. I don't walk away from things that matter, he said. Silence. Then she stepped closer, not hesitant, not unsure, certain. Then, I choose this. Her voice steady. I choose you. The words didn't rush, didn't shake. They settled, deep, real. Eli's breath slowed, then he nodded. And I choose you. Simple, but absolute. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low, quiet, warm. Eli picked up the small wooden box, opened it. The ring still there, waiting, like it always had been. He held it out. This time, she didn't hesitate. She took it and slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly, not to lose, not to tie it, like it belonged, like it had always belonged that night. There was no storm, no wind, no fear, just quiet. Real quiet, the kind that doesn't feel empty. It feels full. Two people, once strangers. Now something more. Not because of fate, not because of chance, but because of choice. The storm should have killed her, should have buried her under snow, like so many others before. But it did. In single quotes did. It brought her to a door. And that door changed everything, because sometimes the worst night of your life leads you to the place you were always meant to be. If you were Eli, would you have opened that door, or let the storm decide her fate? Tell me in the comments.